Hey there, it's Nathalie and I'm in the studio and I've got Kitty. No, she's right here. You can't see her. She's just a little off screen. So today I'm going to show you how to make a journal. So it can either be a junk journal using junk papers, or it can be an art journal using mixed media paper, or it could be just a regular journal with plain copy paper. This is really super simple. I'm going to use a manila folder, just like you would in your filing cabinet, copy paper, a pamphlet stitch. I'm going to use some little funky fabric that I've got, and then some of my papers that are in my stash. Let's get started. Okay, for this little journal, I'm going to call it a sketchbook because I'm going to use plain copy paper. You could use mixed media paper or another paper. This is 8.5 by 11. I'm going to fold it in half, length crossways, okay? And then if you folded it, but I'm just going to cut it in half like this, that size. So this will get you, each sheet will get you 2 pages. You'll need 5 sheets. That's going to give you 5 sheets in each signature. I'm going to do 2 signatures. This is a signature. And I'm using a regular size file folder. So once this is folded in half, this is, and I've got this really cool ruler that has all of these little increments, but you don't have to have that. This is 5.5. Of course, that's 11 folded in half. And so I want to add 1/4 of an inch for my outer part. So we're going to mark our file folder 5 3/4. So from this front, from this fold, this file folder is not just a regular file folder. It's got the little extra sections there, you can see. Okay, like that. So from these bins right here, it's going to be 5 3/4. And I'll get 2 folders out of this. That was the wrong mark. 5 3/4. Ignore that one. And 5 3/4 right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark it. Don't have to mark it, but just so that you can see. So from this bend to here is 5 3/4. Yes. So I'm going to turn it over, and the only reason I flipped that around is I wanted to put my ruler all the way to the edge. 5 3/4 and 5 3/4. And I could just go ahead and just open this out and cut it. Nice sharp blade. 5 3/4 from this side. And my signatures, if I did this right, are 4 1/4. So that's 8.5 in half. Okay? 4 1/4. So I want to make this, and I'm just going to line this up so I can see what I'm doing, make sure I've got my measurements right. I'm going to make this 5 inches. Okay, that's going to give me 1/4 inch on each side. I'm going to open my file folder completely open. Do me a little mark here, 5 inches. I want to do it one more time, lay this here and see. Now I've got that much space on the edges and at the end. And then I don't have to flip it around, but I'm just going to flip this around just because it's a machine edge here. The signature will sit in these little crease lines right here. There, I've got 1/4 inch at the top, bottom, and on the edge. Now you could do a couple of things here. You could have 2 covers and then add some artwork out here, or you could put the 2 together like this and glue them together, and then you have it really strong. Trim off the edges where it's, because whenever you put them together, you're going to have a little excess hanging over. See right there? I'm going to use regular glue to glue this together. And you could use a different kind of glue if you wanted to. You could use a glue stick if you want to. Just paper to paper. But I'm just going to go ahead and use just regular PVA or school glue, Elmer's glue. And before I get everything else glued in place, I want to go ahead and make sure I line this up where my bends are where they need to be, my folds. Ignore those pencil lines. This is a junk folder. Make sure that's got good glue right there. Make sure my fold is still good. And that's nice and smooth. Crease that. Don't let the glue dry in your brush. You probably don't need for me to tell you that, but sometimes I just can't help it. You just need some things you just need to know. Make sure my bend is good. The spine is good. That everything is smooth. And I want to make sure that I dry this with the bends in place. I'm going through my stash of marbled papers to see, these are shaving cream marbled papers, to see which one I want to use. This is cardstock. This is regular paper. Let me see. I think that this might be the one that I want to use. This has got a little bit of a hole in it, but right there, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. So this is 5 inches wide. I want to make sure that I've got it. I'm going to bring it up to the fold. And I could measure it, but I'm just going to do this just because I don't trust myself right now. And I'm going to give me a little fold right there so I know where to cut that. Make sure it goes to the fold. Alright, so this one is going to be the same, and I've got a good amount there. Alright, at this point, this doesn't have a front or a back, but we'll just pretend like this one's the front. I'm going to use this just real quick. And this is just a glue stick that I'm using as a roller or a brayer. My brayer is back in the studio. This is I'm on my cutting table for my sewing room. All right, so there's my cover for right now. I'll do a little bit of trim stuff on it in a little bit. Do the back side of it. Let that dry for a little bit. For the back of the spine, I'm going to use this. I've got a pillowcase, old kind of faded-ish, because I've got some of this new and it's all bright, but I like this faded one. I'm going to use this on my spine. Cut it a little past 2 inches because I don't know how straight this was cut. And now from the torn edge, so there's my 2-inch mark. Oh, that's going to be great. I think I'm going to run it off just a little smidge past. Tear it. All right, I want to do it. Go ahead and do this. I'm not going to be just real persnickety about this, but I've got my This is just kind of loosely folded in half. There's my halfway mark on my spine. And I ran my glue out I've already put the glue down. I've put it out just a little past where I thought I might need it. Bend this to make sure it still has its bend. I know that's kind of funky together with that. I'm ready to mark and stitch my signatures. I have a piece of foam core that I got from the dollar store. Some pokey tools also from the dollar store, Dollar Tree. This one is more narrow. This one's a little thicker. This one, I like this one better for my needle to go through. I've got my signatures folded, and I've got my template like that. 2.5 inches. This is 5 inches wide. 2.5 is the middle, and then 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches. That gets the edge of, that's where I want my next holes to go. This is the little perforated lines or dotted lines. That's where my signature, the edge of my signatures are. This is to the edge of the folder. And then I've got some wide or embroidery needles. They're not bookbinding needles, they're just embroidery needles. And some embroidery floss. I haven't decided what color yet. And so whenever I put this in the book, I can mark it. And so what I'll do is I'll go here, edge to edge. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see that. Let's get this out of the way. I've got my pencil, so I'm going to mark on both of these little creases. Line this up. I'm going to put a mark here, here, and here, and then scooch over, and I'm lining up top and bottom. This is the second fold that's in there. There, there, and there. So let me go ahead and mark my signatures while I'm at it. So lining up, make sure everything is even on the edges here. You can see right there is my middle. So I'm going to take my pencil, mark the middle, and then I have a video about Coptic stitching that uses this same sort of technique. All right. So I've got those marked. Put the foam core underneath there and poke through. My signatures are marked. Make sure they're lined up and straight and pierced through. So there's where I have pierced 1, 2, 3. So let me just throw this in here. You could go ahead and put something on the inside of this. I'm not going to right now. And you could put another piece of fabric in here if you wanted to, because I'm not sure if you can see them, but this is indented right here where I poked it. And so you could go back in through that and re-poke these holes if you wanted to put a piece of fabric on the inside to give it a little finish. Or another piece of paper. You could put a piece of paper in here to finish that. But I'm not going to do that for right now. I have 3 times the width for my thread, plus a little extra. And I'm going to start in the middle, go into the middle hole of my signature in the first row, the middle hole on my spine. And then I want to leave a little bit of a tail right there so I can tie off. Flip it over, go into the top hole in the first row, right there, and then into the top hole of the signature, like that. To go back down into the middle hole again, to go out. Let me go ahead and pull this through so that I can get my thread snugged up. And then I'm going to go out that middle hole in the first row. That's what it looks like on the inside. And then I'm going to go to the bottom hole on the first row, fixing it where you can see it and I can see it. Let me turn this just a little bit. There we go. And I have a sharp needle and I just poked myself. And so then I am just going to tie off each signature. making sure everything is secure. Then I'm going to go underneath that thread. Here's the loose end. Pull through, make sure it's secure, and do a square knot. And then I'm going to just trim these like that. Go into the middle of the signature, middle hole of the signature. Make sure you don't pull it all the way through. Leave yourself a little tail there. There we go. Just a couple of inches. To the middle hole of the spine. And it doesn't matter whether you go into the top or to the bottom. When it really doesn't matter at all. But I'm going to go ahead and go into the top hole of the spine. Get back in the frame here so you can see. And then the top hole of the signature. Be careful of that one. Don't let it get away from you. Back down. And into the middle. And we'll flip it. So this is the bottom hole. And then make sure my threads are nice and firm. Go underneath that stitch. And do a square knot to secure that. And clip off the extra. Well, I just can't help embellishing this. So I've got this piece of was a jelly print paper, and this little piece of yellow was probably a brayer cleanup paper. And so there's a little bit of that yellow in there, and this also a piece of jelly paper, and a little piece of watercolor. And I'm going to stitch these together, and then I'll just glue this, and then glue all this down. I'll make a little thing. I'm going to go to the sewing machine. I'll be right back. I'm use a glue stick to glue this down. Let's see. I want to turn it just a tiny bit. Get it right over there. Needs a word. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with the way that this turned out. It's pretty cute using a file folder and just 2 signatures, and depending on what kind of paper you use in here, whether this is a sketchbook, an art journal, you would use like mixed media paper, or a junk journal, you're going to use junk papers. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you like this. Be sure you give me a like and a thumbs up, share me with your friends, or even better, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.